So welcome back guys to another video. Welcome to a special holiday video because this magazine that I'm going to go over is pure nostalgia to the fullest extent. This is a magazine I got from my friend Power Level Amy. She sent this to me last year. I've been wanting to make a video on it in perfect timing because this is the December 1996 issue 99 of Gamepro Magazine. Now, if you're like me and you're in your 30s or above, you definitely remember Gamepro. That was just a staple of video game magazines. It's not the best magazine. That goes out to Game Fan. I'm a big fan of Game Fan. But this is my era. This is where I grew up. This is during the PlayStation, the N64, and Sega Saturn, 3DO, Jaguar era, and this is when I really started to kind of learn about a video game industry, that it just wasn't something that just popped up in your store. Video games had kind of a backstory to them. So I wrote down a couple of pages I wanted to go over, so let's check this out. Okay, first off, I love reading these old head-to-head articles. These were articles that, readers would write to the magazine, and they would write about, video games or their opinions of a last article or something like that. One of the things they wrote, I love this right here. It's called Games and Gear. In your July issue, Mad Mr. Freeze wrote to you complaining that stores wouldn't buy back his used systems and games. Why would a store want his old, outdated equipment? Those stores are in business to make money, and there's no way they can resell his old, used systems and games for much profit. Oh, how the times have changed. They wrote back, "You're right about stores only wanting to buy back equipment that they can turn around and sell for profit. That's why they offer so little for used games and consoles, and they can't charge much to the next buyer. However, Mad Mr. Freeze does have a point about expressing the expenses adding up. Both the PlayStation and N64 launched without a packing game, and the new systems come with no second controller. A trend for the companies to provide less and not more with their new systems." This is a really interesting time because this is when we started really seeing a shift towards gaming, and one of the things they really dive in this article is online. They're like, oh, now you can hook up to the World Wide Web and play video games. Really crazy stuff. Let's see. And of course the video game advertisements right here, a full spread of Tobal #1. Really one of my favorite fighters on the original PlayStation. It was art by Akira Toriyama. It was a Squaresoft game. It came with a playable demo of Final Fantasy VII. Really good stuff. I have to say, if you have not played Tobal #1, it's definitely something to check out. And right here, they're talking about 3DO. 3DO was already in hot water. It says the 3DO company wants to focus on internet gaming. Wow, that's crazy. And they're talking about how the sales aren't doing that great, but they want to be innovators and focus on online. And back then, that was like something that people were just like, no, who wants to play online? Okay, I got some more pages that I wrote down. Okay, like right here, the cutting edge Sega Saturn showing off the Netlink. A lot of people talk about the Sega Dreamcast. They talk about the Sega Dreamcast as the innovator of really getting the internet and video games, when it went all the way back to the Sega Saturn. Matter of fact, I know the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis at one point had an add-on that you could actually hook up your phone lines and play people that way. Let's see, it's page 64. No pun intended. Oh my gosh. Okay. Look at this. Rage Racer. Oh my gosh. No, this is why I wrote this. Like, look at these old advertisements. Like, it's like a full spread. It's like nothing to do. And then you go through it and it's like squeeze it, smoke it, slam it, thrust it. And it shows like all these different games, and that wouldn't fly today. That's so hilarious. That would not fly today. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. And of course, like games like Street Racer and man, I had to write down like tables of contents because I was going through this magazine and there's just so much going on. This right here is really special. It's a sneak preview of Resident Evil 2. a very different Resident Evil 2. A matter of fact, a lot of fans refer to this as Resident Evil 1.5. The characters are very different. Leon kind of looks like Leon, but you know, Claire's got like blonde hair, and I don't think that's Claire. Her name's Eliza Walker. So I mean, that's really something crazy to see. Such a influential game and such a big game start off from its humble beginnings. They have a whole spread of like that wise guy from the 16-bit Bobcat is making an impressive jump to both the 32-bit consoles. The designer of the first Bubsy, not the lame sequel, that's actually what they said, has created a interactive 3D world that looks and sounds like a colorful Roadrunner cartoon that plays a little like Jumping Flash. The two-player platforming jumping warps to hidden areas, and Bubsy jumps across elevated platforms, swims, flies on a nifty jet, and sprouts 150 trademark wisecracks. The Saturn version is due in December. Wow. Little did we know what kind of game that would be. Now, I remember this magazine because it had an advertisement for Mortal Kombat Trilogy. And I mean, this was a big deal back then because Mortal Kombat Trilogy had like every single Mortal Kombat character. And I remember I was actually happy because it involved Scorpion. Scorpion wasn't in the original Mortal Kombat 3. So to see him come back and to see all these characters, I remember I wanted this game so bad. I ended up getting Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on Super Nintendo because I didn't have the newer consoles back then. You know, I just got a Sega Genesis at that time, that Christmas. I had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis, so I was good. Alright, you guys will like this one. In the near future, mankind has conquered dimensional travel, where the door we have opened swings both ways. The peaceful city you have grown up has become a haven for dark creatures from another world, demons. Now it's up to you and your friends to harness the hidden power within you by entering the fantasy game known as Persona. That is right. This is like one of the first advertisements for Persona, a JRPG that would have such a huge following. You know, we see Joker now off Persona 5 as a playable character in Smash Brothers. I mean, it's huge. And I have to admit, I never played the original Persona on PlayStation. I played it on the PSP, which I hear is a lot better. But yeah, this was a very special game at the time. It had a very different feel compared to the other JRPGs at the time. It wasn't sci-fi, it wasn't like medieval. It kind of dived more into the occult, and I thought that was kind of cool, actually. And a full spread on Fighting Vipers, a game on the Sega Saturn I absolutely love. And, you know, it's funny looking at the scores. You know, Fun Factor is 4.5, controls are 4.5, graphics 4.0, sound 4.0. It's funny looking back at some of these reviews of games that we hold in such high regard today that at the time, some of them were kind of slammed. I mean, 4.0 is definitely not bad, but, you know, I remember reading GamePro and GamePro talking so much smack about Xenogears when it came out, and now that's one of those RPGs that people absolutely love. One of the things I liked about these magazines as well is you'd have Movesets, you know, to learn how to do different moves in fighting games. Like, here's a full spread of Street Fighter Alpha 2, some of the characters that you could play as, and it would just show you all the different moves, and people would bring these to the arcades and try them out, or play them at the house and train and go to arcades later on that weekend and just totally do these secret moves and secret attacks and finishing moves like in Mortal Kombat. It was something really special that, you know, we have the internet, we have YouTube videos that we really take for granted, but man, this brings back a lot of memories. But I wanted to close this video talking about something that I really liked that was always in the back of these magazines, and that was these order forms, so like mail order forms that you could actually order Japanese imports. Like, that was the way that we got these games sent overseas. Now, sometimes stores would, you know, order from this, or sometimes it was, if you were lucky enough and you had the money, you could order some of these things because they weren't cheap. Like I'm looking right now at some of the games, and they were like 50, 60 bucks, and this is 1996. You know, it was crazy. Super Mario RPG was like 66 bucks. It's crazy. And Funkoland, oh god, Funkoland right here. They have an order form, and this is why I was collecting retro, and even though it wasn't really retro back then, but I was collecting for the Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis because everyone was playing PlayStation and Sega Saturn. I was buying these games at Funkoland, and I'm looking at the prices right now. Games like the original Legend of Zelda was $4. It was a $4 game. I mean, you can't even dream that in today's collection community. You're lucky if you get it for like $20 or something like that. It's so crazy. And I mean, back then, those games were either loose or sometimes they were even complete. Funkoland was very weird because you would go in there and you would get a newspaper and you would get all the prices off the newspaper. They didn't really like to mark prices on the games themselves. That was always kind of weird. And of course, I'm going to close this with one of the best contests ever, and that is this right here. If you guys remember that, that was really cool. That's where they kind of went over a crossword puzzle, and you'd win like a computer, a big sound system, ultra big screen television, a 3DO, Virtual Boy, PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and an N64, and an RCA satellite dish, so you could watch a bunch of television shows. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this journey going through the 1996 issue of Gamepro Magazine. Also, I'm going to leave a link on the description below to an archive website where you can actually go back and read a lot of these magazines digitally. It's awesome. That's where I pulled some of the images from this to make the video with, because I wanted like really nice, quality pictures. And it's a really cool website, Internet Archives. You can read anything from GamePro. But anyway, guys, what are some of your favorite games of 1996? I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And as always, happy gaming.